Um, for everyone who's here, I'll do a little soft intro. And oh my God, you guys, it's the full moon. Yay. This is our guest over here. She's over here on for me in my Hollywood squares. She's over here. Maria Minnis, and we are so lucky to have you here. I'm really excited. I'm excited about you in general. I've been excited about for you for a long time. I'm glad we get to hang out and talk, and I'm extra excited about your new project, the Kink and Tarot podcast you're going to tell us about. And yeah, I feel like it has a really good link with like sexy summer self-care. So I'm very excited about that. Do you want to give us a little intro or say a few words?
Yeah, I am so happy to be here. I was just like Jesse, our Jesse Susanna, my appreciation of you has run back a long time. And so I'm loving this mutual just appreciation and really excited to be here in real time with this community. I think it is just a like such a great idea to have such a laid back like today I just felt so lazy, and usually I have a lot of anxiety before these events, but I was like, I don't have to, put up not put up a front, but gear myself up. I'm like, I'm just gonna show up as I am. I am wearing a shirt that says, I'm a real bitch with real feelings. Um, and that's just kind of the zone I'm in. And yeah, I'm a tarot reader, I'm a teacher, tarot reader, teacher, ritual facilitator, author. Yeah, big Cancer season vibes. I didn't even think about that. Oh, what a timely shirt then. Um, yeah, and I have been doing this for a while. I've been reading tarot for over 2 decades, and I do all sorts of things. And one of my new things is next week I'm releasing the first episode of my Kinky Tarot podcast. And so that we're gonna touch a little bit on that today. But yeah, just mostly wanted to say like hi to everyone and like really just happy to be here.
So awesome. At Fangirl for Fangirl is sort of my favorite orientation, especially like internet fangirl for internet fangirls, one of
Same.
my favorite genders. I just really love that to be in that energy. So this is extra fun for me. I'm having a kind of like kink revival this summer. So I was like extra excited. And actually, the person who is inspiring this revival is a Cancer. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. It's all coming together.
Oh, juicy.
Awesome. Well, yeah, let's light our candles and then they can burn. A little story. These are my Shabbat candlesticks. And I bought these drunk at Target, and I did it to force memories on my son because I was like, there's no fucking way this isn't going to imprint in your memory. This is your mom's Shabbat candlesticks. Like, imprint that shit deep. It's going to be impactful. So I love that. I feel like people are always like, these are beautiful. I'm like, thank you. I got them drunk at Target. All right. So, yes, it is his inheritance. Um, for okay. In Hebrew tradition, lighting the Shabbat candles separates out like sort of secular time from sacred time, or sacred time from extra special sacred time, for 25 hours. And also, it's kind of perfect because the moment of lighting the Shabbat candles is also supposed to be like consummation with the Shabbos bride. It's all very erotic. So it's sort of like you're like marrying God, you're marrying like in this moment. And then in my particular tradition, the way I think about it is right after you light the candles is like your best time of the week to say a prayer a personal prayer because it's right after you had sex with God, and it's like you're like pillow talking with God, and you're like, hey, God, do you think you could whatever? So we can harness that erotic moment for anyone who wants it. Is there anything that you want to say about Shabbat candles or any lighting or Shabbat?
Oh, no, I'm just so excited that this is falling on Shabbat. I say I'm like an earth-based Jew, and my Judaism is very erotic, in symbolism and in practice. So I love this. I love this act we're about to do, in service of tonight and these events and the hopes that we are, cultivating in this sacred time.
Beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna grab a little a schmuck. Hold on. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna light them, and then my tradition is to do this 3 times, and it's like bringing in the warmth of the of Shabbat, of this sacred time, bringing the sacredness like into your body, and then I'll say a bracha, a blessing, and I say it 2 ways. First, the more like traditional or masculine gendered way, and then I say it a feminine gendered way. And then I'll stop and just do a little private prayer, and that's a good private prayer moment if you want one to just, it's a good time to just set an intention, check in with your body, see how you feel, make a prayer to whoever or whatever feels right for you. And yeah, then we'll be in this special time together and we'll have a special conversation. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, le'adlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. Brucha ya Shekhinah, Eloteinu ruach haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu. להדליק נר של שבת. Amen. And this is your prayer time if you want it. Check in with yourself. Check in with your spirit. Sending special blessing to all of you in our constellation here tonight, and dedicating our tikkun, which is like our healing work that we do tonight, to the tikkun olam, the healing of the world, and righteous and sacred order of freedom and liberation for all people and all flecks of dirt and all rocks and all more than human beings, all human beings and more than human beings. Yeah, may our healing work and our gathering tonight be in service of a vision of liberation. Amen. I'm gonna put these somewhere where I will not burn my face off. Okay. Okay. So can I go ahead with my first question?
Absolutely.
Okay. So my first question was, okay, so to back up a little bit, I know Maria just from being internet babes together and from Maria's really dedicated work of I'm going to say not just working with the tarot in a way that is focused on, like it says in the title of your book, confronting racism, but I'm going to say even more like appreciation for documenting that work, right? Because I feel like it's like people are doing that work and it seems like a really important project for you to document. I know that your book comes out of a blog that you had, which I imagine is like documenting your process. And also, once you start doing something, people talk to you about it, right? So I would imagine lots of people are like, oh, here's what I'm doing, and just, yeah, I want to give you appreciation for being like a documentarian and a culture keeper for witches and anti-racist witches and just yeah, witches for liberation. I think it's really special work. But that's where you first came on my radar. So I guess let's say I'm an ADHD, so I'm like, let's talk about 500 things down the steps. But let's talk about that first. Like, your book did not come out that long ago.
No, it came out in January.
Okay. How is it to have a book?
So exciting. And you know what? I just first wanted to like pause and just acknowledge that like I so appreciate and receive with gratitude the words that you shared. I feel like you got to the heart of my intention with this book, this workbook. I'll just I don't I think it's been enough time since the book has been out that I can just start saying things like I didn't get to choose the title or the
No, I
subtitle.
didn't get to choose my title either. Okay.
Really? Oh
Solidarity. Yeah.
my God. So aside
What
from
is
all of,
the incubation title of this book? Like, what did you name it for
I
yourself?
don't I don't even remember, but I was just like, why would anyone want to do hard work? Like all the book is all about like the little things that we can incorporate into like what we're already doing because like the work is not just like these big grand monumental changes like that's not sustainable and so I sort of missed the mark but I'm really glad that a lot of people are uh seeing past that or are not intimidated by that and I have just been like it was my number one life like goal to like have a book
Mhm.
published and out there and so I am so happy with it I'm actually quite I'm a perpetual editor but the last the I would say the last night that I could get it in but it was a couple of nights after the deadline and I was just rereading like the manuscript for the last time and I was like I think I'm pretty proud of this. I think this is complete. I am done with this. And I am really grateful that I was able to have that moment of security before it went out into the world. And now I'm just like, whoa, like the effects are rippling. Like people are like taking action and doing book clubs and like all I want is like for people like if every single person who got this book just did like one out of the hundreds of activities that I propose, like the spell has it is working. And that's what I consider this book as is like my biggest spell yet. And the effects of it just keep rippling in in so many different ways and like the result of all the things we do it ripples beyond what I can like realistically perceive and I think that's a really affirming and spacious place that this project has gotten me to.
I love just the receiving of like the unknown of it and not having to, fully control or say like this book is for this and I hope everybody's doing this with it. It's like just knowing like the the impetus is to, I don't know, to make a spell, right? To do what you know is right to do, to write the book in a way where you're like, this is the right book, and then it
Right.
goes out in the world and people take it and they're like, oh, this is what I'm going to do with it, and it's just, we can't know. And that it feels like like the magic of it. It's fun. It's fun that way.
Yeah, thank you for noting that. Like, I sort of use this project as like I am I have love and respect. I do think that there's a lot of there's a lot to be said about the collective energies of each card and these like shared meanings because we all do exist in an ecosystem, and as time changes and people evolve, so those our language of the tarot and such. So I do like, I am hip to the quote unquote traditional meanings of the cards, but I use this book as sort of like uh, a sneaky way to insert like more holographic, like different um, perspectives of tarot that I haven't really seen um, documented before. And I, I did that in order to, like, a lot of the workbook is not just like the anti-racism work. It's like how do you show up as these different archetypes? Like, who are you as a person outside of tarot, outside of anti-racism work? Like, it's a self exploration tool as well. And so yeah, I mean, you said it best. It's like, when you get the book, it is your book. I I am only beholden to my work. And after that, it is out of my hands. And that's that's the way it is with all of my work. Like, I can only control what I do, and I have faith that the people who receive the words, the art, whatever, it reaches the people it needs to, and they do what they do with it.
And they will. I mean, they will for sure. I think, have you had an experience yet where someone has like you've been somewhere random, or I don't know, you've had a random conversation with someone you don't know and they've said like, "Oh, here's how your work like impacted me," or like, "I read your book and this is what I did with it."
Yeah, I like that is still so mind-blowing to me. Like, I know I wrote this book with all of these things that people could do, but like, and people are doing a lot of the actions out in the world, but what I have been so um more particularly excited by is like the inner work that people are doing. And it seems like people are and the inner work motivating. All right, so like what I am excited by is the inner work people are doing to explore their relationship to racism and internalized racism, et cetera, and to be able to identify these topics within ourselves, in our lives, our environment. Once we connect with the meaning and or like the meaning, the purpose, and how it relates to us, that sets the foundation for a more sustainable practice, versus if we were to see anti-racism as this like continually abstract thing out there that I can dip in and dip out of. It it is it is affirming to know that people are asking themselves the hard questions. They're getting really uncomfortable, and like they're not alone. Have to, I am a Black woman who was raised in the middle of nowhere near the West Virginia border. I've got internalized racism as well, and I say that to say is like I've got things to undo, and I've worked through so much in writing the book. So, like, nobody who is reading the book is doing this work alone because I I did it as I was writing it, and that's what made writing the book so hard.
Do you feel like was that writing process really immersed? Like, what was it like that? Like, I'm doing this work and then like I'm writing about it, it really immersive in the creative process? Or was this work that you had been doing for a long time? And then when you got to the book, you were like, let me write down everything that just happened.
I think it was a mixture of both. It was me having to be in the present and also readily accessing documents, experiences, examples, resources from the past. But in terms of like me sitting in front of my computer and like going through the points that I raise, like I would spend a couple of days toward the beginning of like outlining the book even, and I would spend a couple of days on like each essay topic. There are like over 60 essays in the book, and like I would spend some time like pulling cards and meditating on like each topic. Like I I don't I think I don't like to waste words. I don't like to just to talk. Like if you see my social media, it's just a scatter shot. Sometimes I'm there, sometimes I'm not. Like I show up when I feel like it's in flow. And so I wrote all of these pieces while in the headspace of learning or relearning what I am writing and how it relates to me, my world, me, my relationships, and the larger collective, if you will. So it was a lot of those. I had a lot of tough conversations with myself, with other people. It wasn't just erudite, like super stuffy research work. Like like had to pull from the real world, and that's I don't know. I don't know. Lots of my work is all about like real world experience and not just what you can find, in JSTOR or behind a paywall somewhere.
What card has been, and if you don't have one that's like the biggest, most significant, um, what's like just the most interesting or whatever, but like what card do you feel like you've done the most personal transformation work with?
In regard to the book or just in
Just
general?
in general, yeah, like in your personal life. Because to me, I'm like, I think when I was thinking about the book and also thinking about the podcast, it's like anti-racism journey, tarot journey, kink journey. I'm like, these are all healing paths, right? And I was like, so I could just kind of imagine you like these are the paths that you're walking, and I love, because it's something that I like to do too, is to be like, how do we bring these things together and just make something really unique out of it? And you don't have to, not that it's not work, but it's like you don't have to try that hard because it's just you naturally, right? Like these are the things that are interesting to you. This is like your special gifts from creator, is to synthesize these beautiful things that are so interesting
Okay.
together. So it's been, I was like, oh, you've definitely been walking these paths, right? Like tarot path, kink path, anti-racism path, you know, what what is there a card that's like stood out the biggest to you, like this card has been really significant to me in my healing journey? And if those things feel like different paths to you, that's okay. To me, I'm sort of like, I think of them all as just like Maria's path.
Oh, that's so sweet. I really love this question. And and one thing, if you're following my work or you're interested in following my work, I am moving into a space where I'm talking more about interpersonal relationships. I think that uh, mm, I've done a lot of research around the epidemic of loneliness,
Mm.
and that's translated into my tarot practice, which I'll share more publicly. Is more information about tarot grids and the relationship between different cards, because I think a lot of times we talk about cards as these like singular archetypes, but when we're looking at a spread, we're seeing a story, we're seeing a picture, we're seeing the pieces and the whole at the same time. And so my answer to your question is actually not necessarily a card, but I think it's more so the fool's leap between the high priestess and the empress. And I'll share that like my life path card is High Priestess, and my teacher card is Justice. I have never really felt like the High Priestess until I wrote this book. I've just been like I love the High Priestess, but they always just seemed like an archetype that was like something to appreciate, but not really inhabit or embody. But writing this book brought me to a space where I realized that So the high priestess goes into the dark, into the void, into the unknown. But as we know, if we're looking at the, major arcana in a linear path, the high priestess has to return to the world. And so the high priestess goes into these dark, perhaps ugly places and secrets and things that, the dominating societies or dominating forces want to hide. And they go and they explore and they bring that out into the sun. They bring that out into their garden. They plant the seeds that they have, s- come back with from the unknown, the high priest behind the high priestess's veil, and such a sweet chat message. They go out behind this veil. They bring back these seeds of information and they plant it and in the Empress's garden, right? And the Empress's garden is not in the dark space; it's under the sun. Sometimes under cloudy rain, we need all different plants need all sorts of different things, but it's back out into the open. And I, in writing this book, realized like I think I'm willing to do these, like say explore the uncomfortable things, and implore people to do the uncomfortable things so they can plant seeds in their garden, which can bear fruit that we take with us throughout our, if you choose, linear major arcana journey, or not, the fool can jump between any two cards in the deck.
I love that because the Fool is my personal like the card I've worked with the most for personal healing, most
Yeah.
actively. So I'm really but I also High Priestess is the first card I ever loved. So I feel like I'm like, oh yes, that's good. And also I feel a bit of a pressure to connect with Empress more, obviously, as a money witch. There's like a little archetypal pressure there. But and I love her, and sometimes I feel that, but I don't always. So thank you for giving us this story because I feel like it yeah, it helps me make some connections there. And it makes me
Yeah.
think about how you can't have abundance without deep truth also, right? Like it's like that's
Mhm.
the planting. Like we're not just planting to plant, or sometimes I think people think of the Empress card in terms of, when we're thinking about like money and politics or money and liberation, like, oh, is it kind of selfish, right? It's just like abundance and stuff, more stuff. But I really like this idea that in order, like the seeds of that are planted from this, um, excavation and sort of like pulling back of curtains, like multidimensionality. I think of that like psychopomp too, or Mercury, like pulling a message from one dimension to
Mhm.
another dimension. That's interesting that that makes like a high priestess Mercury connection to me, which I haven't had in the past, but that's cool.
I love that. Thank you so much for making that connection. I just had like this like I feel a lot of my psychic self, I feel in the body, and I just now got this like shimmering like Mercury, like I associate like blue, green, teal with Mercury, and I just felt like that color energy circulating or like flowing through my body, and I really resonate with that. So thank you for mentioning that. I love that. Wow.
He's very present in my house. We have a devotional relationship, me and Mercury. So
Oh,
he's always
beautiful.
looking to insert in the conversation somewhere. He's gonna find a way in. But I really felt it with this. It's beautiful. Um, yeah, thank you for that storytelling and that visual. I was curious, moving a little bit towards talking the podcast, and again, the conversation doesn't also have to be linear. We can kind of go different places as we want, but was there a card? I feel like the Kinky Tarot podcast is new, so I'm assuming it's like a more new project in your mind also, than your blog and your book. And I was curious if there was like a little connection moment, if there was a card that you first kind of started connecting kink to, where you're like, where you are like I'm a stoner, so I feel like everyone is like me where we're like staring at a card and one day when we're just like, whoa, like all this stuff I've been doing is right here, man. So that's how I imagine your moment being, but maybe it was different than that. Like what made you like make that connection of like, oh, these things that I've been doing connect for me?
Yeah. Oh, I feel like what I'm about to say is like the most like unsurprising card to mention, but several years ago, like I had taken a break from reading tarot, um, and I came back to my deck, and I was getting familiar with all of these different cards, and I got to like the devil, and like I admit I have had issue like I have I like vices. I'll just leave it at that. And
Live a
so
little.
I often saw the devil previously as like this archetype within me that I like tried to suppress, but in coming back to it, I realized like, oh, it's not necessarily these vices that are like inherently bad. Like the things are what they are. It's our relation to them. It's how we act on them. And honestly, what we do with them connects us somehow to our I feel like the devil card connects us back to our wildness, our natural self, the pieces of us that people paint as that dominating forces seem to paint as extraneous or too wild to belong in mainstream narratives. And I just thought, okay, instead of this devil figure in this dark hellscape, like, what about like the mischievous devil who's like playing in the forest naked and just feeling alive and like feeling into pleasure and eroticism and not feeling guilty about it? Because it's like, again, like it's not necessarily bad to want certain things. And there's balance anywhere to be found anytime, and I think the definition of balance shifts over time, but like the devil is our inherent wildness. It's our wild child, and like I have been really close to that archetype since then. And so I've been in tarot for a long time, but I'm newer to the sex positive kink play party, whatever you call it, scene. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm never going to have this sort of maybe not super fresh, but like fresher perspective on all of this again. Why don't I create something that blends two things I love, kink and tarot, and sort of document not just what I know, but what I am learning. And it's me, again, like I feel like certain things are inherent to my work. If you're familiar with my work, which is my proclivity to share too much information sometimes. And so I was like, okay, I'll just whip up a podcast and, preface it as like, sometimes it's going to be TMI, but like these are my real life experiences and I want to share them. These are the things I'm learning. And these are the things that don't necessarily have to connect to like literal like bedroom play. Like I think there's a lot about kink that can speak to how we relate to ourselves, how we respect ourselves and others, and how we subvert uh, dominant or vanilla narratives that want to conquer the wildness, the devils within us, the benevolent devils within us.
Pride is coming up, and I feel like subvert the vanilla paradigm is like a really good pride sign.
I like that.
I think it's I think it's really good. I love also that you're really embracing, it feels like the Fool card again, like embracing this like learner energy. Or I guess it's also like a like page energy, you know, like, let me go in and just kind of like learn and share what I'm learning and not feel like I have to be the expert on this, you know, in order to share or to teach or to like have people resonate with me. It's always been you know, as a financial person, like anytime I talk to anyone who's like gonna do marketing for my business or I don't know, these things, people are always like, position you as an expert, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't want to be positioned as an expert. Like,
No.
like number one, like I'm not an expert and it's just not interesting to me. Like I'm like positioned, there's a lot of positions I like, but expert is not one of them. So yeah, I love that you're like, not only am I not an expert, that's the whole point.
Yeah, I like even just like speaking back to the Tarot for the Hard Work book, I think I say in the intro, like, I am not an expert. Like, nothing, like, my work, and how I talk about it is, obviously all of the things we say are like painted by our current and past and anticipated experiences. And so I I am ever evolving and yeah, I can say I'm pretty damn, confident in a lot of what I know, but if I'm the expert, that is so fucking boring. I do not want to be I don't want to be the end all be all for answers. I want to be the catalyst for curiosity
Mhm.
or provide the catalyst for curiosity. Yeah, I know a lot, but uh what is more interesting is what others can do with that and make whatever I do ripple beyond myself. Because it's not all about me. I don't care if anyone looks at me as an expert of things. I mean, it's great, to
Yeah.
feel like you have authority, but I am an expert on what I know. I'm an authority on myself. But beyond that, I am not an expert or an authority, I feel like, on anything beyond myself. I don't really want I don't know, that seems kind of, possessive to me. And I'm just, a forever student, so I'm always learning. I'm, always sharing my personal life experiences because 'cause I'm like, "Hey, here's this thing, I am in a dark place, or I fucked up, or, I take ownership of this way that, I acted unknowingly, which was harmful, et cetera, et cetera." I don't ever want to, be picture perfect online or in anything I write, and so with Kinky Tara, I'm just I'm along like the book, I'm along on this ride with you.
Yeah.
So I don't have all the answers, but let's explore the questions.
What I was gonna say, okay, so we're both saying like no to the expert archetype. And I hear that, okay, catalyst archetype feels good to you. What are some other archetypes that you feel like you like are embracing or walking in your work?
The card that has shown up the most prominently for me in the last month or two is the Page of Pentacles, which is kind of spot on, right? New project about a somewhat newer topic in my life that's related to the material world and thus the body, and physical sensation and such. And yeah, I'm just feeling I am a fire sign. I have a lot of fire and water in my chart, and it's a lot of you know, th it's a lot of it's a lot. I'll just say it's a lot.
I
And
also have a lot of fire and water, so I feel you. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, it's
Wait,
a
what
lot.
fire sign are you?
I am a full-blown Leo.
Okay. I'm
What are
an
you?
Aries. What's your
Oh, yeah.
do you have a water rising?
Scorpio. Wait,
Me
no,
too.
no, no,
Okay, I love
actually,
a Scorpio rising. Okay.
just kidding, just kidding. I thought you asked about the moon and Scorpio moon, but my
Okay.
rising is Taurus, which is grounded in earthy and what I need more of in my life, like groundedness. So it's really been um lovely to play with earth energy and pentacles energy and like bring my literal and mental feet to the ground and feel stable in my body, which is uh new to me.
Yeah. Well, then you have your Scorpio Taurus axes. You're kind of
Yeah,
axes a little bit too. Yeah. That's do you know what your midheaven and your north node are?
I think my I know my north node is Aquarius. I'm not sure what my midheaven is.
I guess it would be, well, if we whole housed it, wait, your Taurus, Scorpio, someone help me do this math. Capricorn. No. What's after Scorpio? Capricorn. Am I making that up? I took part of an edible, so someone help me out here. Okay.
Sagittarius.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you. Sag,
Sagittarius.
okay, Sag, Capricorn, Aquarius. Oh, so you're Aquarius midheaven too.
Yeah.
I love it when a midheaven and north node align because it's like, look, babe, it's in your it's here's the message. Just do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love
Interesting.
my chart.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I was curious where you were with the Leo Aquarius. I'm the flip. I'm midheaven and north node Leo. So we have like that flip kind of past life journey. But
Uh-huh.
I was curious when you were talking about how you are a part of what you do is sort of just be like a sharer and a documentarian of your own experience. And a friend of mine who's an astrologer said to me one time, she kind of clocked the Leo Aquarius in that she was like, sometimes you can have, because I'm the same. I do a lot of sharing online, just like here, blah, here's what's up. And she was like, with your Leo North Node, she's like, you can have things that are just for you. You don't have to like find the universal teaching in everything that happens to you and like share it with everyone. And I was like, but I'm so good at it. Or it just like comes instinctively, like that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
But that Leo Aquarius is really present in the internet sharing experience, I think. So I'm excited that you have that too. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, ditto. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I am such like I document everything. Like I've journaled almost every single day since I was 4. So like when I say something, like I can back it up because I document everything. And part of my personal like journey is like not having to share everything and to have some things not necessarily even to just like my inner circle but like or my partner like some things just to myself and knowing that that's not me being not authentic or secretive or caged. It's just an act of self-preservation that I'm developing skills around.
I think the more public facing you become, the more, I don't know, loud maybe the message comes too. Also, like, oh, it's not even like you have to keep something for yourself. It's just like, do you want to keep anything for yourself? Like, and if
Right.
so, what is it? Like, is it things in a certain category or is it, just every 5 days or whatever it is? Like, what's your for yourself? Do you find that becoming like a louder question as you like have your book out and you have a podcast out and you're like more well known for your blog and have just become more public facing?
Yeah, I think like every few weeks I think to myself like I just want to shut everything down and just like be like the only people who know what's going on with me are the people who see me IRL. And it's not it's and then I realized like that's not what I want to do. I have a lot to say. I feel like I still have a lot to offer. These connections that I've made with people and being able to keep up with their work like there are so many valuable things that I get from seeing others and being seen, because then like people who are like drawn to me like come to me and we connect. I love talking to people and like making new friends, and I'm just like, okay, well, like my favorite thing about being alive is connecting to other people. Like that's the most, like I wrote that yesterday in some journal, and I was like, yeah, that's what I like. And so you know, I'm around. I'm easy to find, contacted, but like I feel like more so before, when I had a smaller audience, and I still feel like I have a generally like small niche community, that I'm still feeling like I still feel like I have some level of closeness to like a core group of people who um you know show up to my classes and send me DMs a lot and such. But like the more I have people in my orbit who I feel like are kind of like just spectators, like they are welcome as well. The more I feel a push to talk about my life more thematically than necessarily giving out like every single, little detail, like this is what I did this weekend and so on and so forth. But it's um like in my newsletter that I sent out today, like it was like 7 swords and 7 friendship red flags. And I introed it with talking just about like social risks that I've taken recently. And I was like, okay, I've got this list of all of these things. And then like something inside me was like, you don't need to say all of that to get your point across. And so I was like, okay,
Felt like you were sharing information about like your friendship experiences.
yeah, yeah. And so I just settled on the social risk of like sending invites to my first birthday party later this year. And like I was like, okay, that's like general enough that it's like I don't have to get too into the details of like how many people and this and that. But like it was enough for me to draw out a theme that I could expound upon by illuminating it with the tarot.
How do we get on your mailing list? Because that sounds like a great newsletter.
Yeah. Okay. So like it is all
I can
right. I'm going to do something annoying because like my I just opened my email because I want to describe it as I've written it. One thing about me, I am one thing about me and my sort of my version of autism is like I'm not always really great at like being a fast responder or like remembering what to say in certain moments. And so sometimes I just pull up things I've written. And so my newsletter, which is free until September, there will still be a free version, just sort of like an occasional truncated version. It's called the Holographic Space Index. And you can find the sign up form on my website, mariaminnis.com. And right now we're just doing before it becomes a paid thing, which I would like to add the caveat that like with any of my classes or offerings, if there are people who cannot make the financial commitment, like you can always just reach out to me and like I no questions asked, I'll put you on the list. Because this isn't my full-time job and I have the flexibility to do that. But anyway, so right now I'm sending out like monthly mini issues of the full version, which will be bi-weekly, waxing and waning moons. I think there's enough to be said about the new and full moons. Like, you know, I'm more interested in the in between. And so every issue will have 10+ page waxing and waning workbooks, which I find really fun to put together. Tarot education around liberation and justice and eroticism and kink. Um, Psychically channel spreads, exercises, spells, spell worksheets, astrological tarot news, always in each issue, even now, there's always a free liberation ebook or resource. I will close my email in a second. And later this fall, we're going to open up community only office hours, workshops, and chats. And yeah, okay, closing my email right now. It's just a project that I'm really excited about. I think my newsletter subscribers are my favorite people on the whole wide internet, and I invite all of you to join. And like I said, once it becomes free again, or once it becomes paid, like I said, this isn't my full-time job, so like reach out to me. Like the door is open and no questions asked. I don't need to know about your financial situation. Just let me know you want in and you are welcome.
Or they could pay for it.
Yeah, no, I think if you have the abundance,
Yeah.
then yes, please pay for it. I think we're gonna stay around like $6 to like $9 a month. But if that is too much of a stretch for you, which I have been there many, many times, and if you're called to, then yeah, join, and then you can pay when you get back up again, because like the Wheel of Fortune promises, like the wheel always turns.
I love that energy. And it is true. I feel like people do, I don't know, cycle through. It's always interesting how people kind of like disappear out of the orbit of the work for a while and then come back in. And yeah, everybody's kind of on their journey. So I love that you use the word holographic. I meant to mention it earlier because it's a word I also use in a lot in my spiritual practice. And I really love that idea. So I was excited about your use of that word.
I love that. And that's actually one of the reasons that I was really drawn to. I was like, oh, somebody else uses this word in their spiritual
Oh my
practice.
God.
Like,
Cool.
what? And like it's such a lovely word, right? Because we're not just looking at things from like one perspective or like one ray of light. Like we've got different shades and shadows and different like levels of light, and like the complexity of spirituality is what excites me. And so when I saw you were talking about holographic stuff and theories and perspectives, I was just like, ah, you get it. I want to connect with you.
That's awesome. Elizabeth says, I just found some old Ram Dass tapes from the 80s on the street, and he says holographic all over those. I really want to listen to those tapes. Okay,
Cool.
my double cassette player and dub them. Um, I was gonna say, I am curious about your relationship to that word. It came into my life in a spiritual perspective from Reb Zalman, may his memory be for a blessing, who's a very important rabbi that I really like his thinking. And he has this quote that I really love, or it's just a quote, it's a concept, I guess, but this teaching or a saying statement, and he says basically like each one of us is a unique holographic particle of God. So it's like, this idea that we're being kind of like projected out um in these billions of ways, and each one of us is kind of like representing a full live movie of like one tiny particle of truth of creation. And yeah, it really like sparked something in me to to build a relationship to that word. So I'm curious about how it came about for you.
Yeah. I it and I can't count. I don't know how many years ago, but years ago, I unfortunately had a violent near-death experience, and the my cat is making a lot of noise. Um, and the first word I could use in writing in my journal about how I felt at being in this like weird liminal, like not alive but like not alive, or like not to being in that like liminal state. The only thing I could say about it was like it was holographic. Like it was not like the images in my mind were not like necessarily just like two-dimensional. I felt like there were like infinite facets of myself. And the word that I just came to think of was holographic, because I also felt unfortunately fragile in that moment. And so I felt holographic, but I also felt like glass. But when and this event led to I suppose you would say a spiritual awakening that sort of like really in my body came to like its peak at I think it was the 2017 solar eclipse in North America. And when I thought about like the holographic glassy way I felt, I was just so like in my body, just like enamored by the shadows and the light that I felt within myself. And um a- and ever since then I've just felt like much more complicated person, and like I've got lots of different facets that you can shine all sorts of, you can shine a light on me a million different ways, and you're never going to get the same two perspectives. And that's how I started saying that word all the time in regard to my practice and how I think about the ways we relate to the world.
Yeah, well, first of all, sending deep healing energy back in time to your body after you had this experience from this whole constellation and moment. So saying hello to Maria in that moment, from this moment in time space. You're gonna make it, baby. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And I really just love like in the most truest moments of knowledge, right? Like we as mystical people, I think of this as being like the mystical perspective on life. It's like we understand ourselves like this, and then we understand everything like that. Like everything that exists in this way where it's like truly, if you shone a light through it, another way, like you wouldn't get the same um information, the same picture. Um and that really, like that knowing really is such an important message. And I'm not even going to say for this time, but I would just say like it feels very relevant right now, because I feel like in my ongoing like one-on-one work with people, what I keep coming to is like I'm like, oh, a big theme of what's happening is helping people out of binary thinking about everything, anything, anything, everything. We're seeing some head nodding. And so it's like I'm not alone in this. Other practitioners are like also having this experience. And so I'm just, and I'm like, well, mysticism is the counter to that, right? Which is just like nothing is nothing. Everything is everything. Nothing is everything. Also, everything is nothing, and that is the supreme truth, right? Like that, or as we choose to accept it. So, or as we're experiencing it. So, yeah, I think there's so much healing in that. It's like beyond multidimensionality. I mean, it is multidimensionality, but it's like extreme multidimensionality.
Right, right. A lot of my I mentioned earlier I took a break from tarot, and honestly, like my spiritual practice for a while, and what brought me back. Um, so my favorite, so something I don't share about myself on the internet that much is like I'm a really big nerd about particle physics and quantum theory, and that actually brought me back into my spirituality, getting deeper into those studies. And one thing that is spoken of in quantum theory is like, for some things, the properties of that object, whether it's on the like, I think we're usually talking about on the subatomic level, like the properties of that thing can change based on who's looking at it or what's perceiving it, and whether and the person perceiving or the thing perceiving um can have influence on whether something can be perceived at all,
Mm.
or considered to exist at all. And so I love what you said, like beyond multidimensionality. Like it is, but it's like it's more than that. It's infinite complexity, and it's beautiful. Scary, but beautiful.
I think that multidimensionality too really that word feels really relevant to me about with your book and the anti-racism work that you're doing, or the, you know, racial healing work that you're doing with tarot, because I think of like privilege or oppression kind of as like dimensions, right? Like it's a dimension that you can exist, because it makes the most sense to me for a metaphor of like how people perceive or don't perceive it, right? Like where it's like some people are like, what are you fucking talking about? Like it's right here, right? Like, what do you mean it's not here? It's like it's right here. And people are like, I can't even see it at all. And it feels like a dimension where it's like your access to sight is you know, impacted by your experiences, your lived experiences, your identity, intersection, etc. And also just by like what, you know, whatever else influences people's perspectives.
Right.
But yeah, it's all it I feel like that metaphor of it being a dimension has been really I don't know, it's like a grounding concept for me. So I like the idea of being like you know, and there's like 7 bazillion other dimensions, right? Like it's like there's so many dimensions, and so much of it, many of us who feel like we're witches or we're crazy or we're whatever, you know, like liberation obsessed. It's because we're like, because I perceive the dimension of that in the world, you know, like I perceive an animist dimension, or I perceive a dimension of like oppression and liberation. I perceive a dimension of um you know, whatever, anything else. So I love the way that they like stack on top of each other, and like that sandwich is kind of um the holograph, right? It reminds me of a piece of mica, like a slab of mica
Ooh.
too, like all those like shimmery layers all like pressed together.
Yeah, I love the word. I love that you choose to use the word dimension, because uh, rather than like, so like I feel like with the word dimension, it's a little bit harder to have an immediate reaction to that, to the topic that is being spoken of as dimensional, as being one end of a binary, just by nature of us being like three-dimensional beings. Like how can we like where, like if our narrative, if our understanding of the world was you know, two-dimensional, then I think it would be, you know, that's dimensional, so we would imply that that's like one side or the other. But dimensional just says like, hey, this is one possibility out of many, and we know that you know, there you know, this universe is a wide, huge place. Anything can happen, and so many possibilities are out there, and dimensionality, KT says, is limitless, and I love that. Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Well, question. Um, I'm really excited for your podcast to come out because, like I said, I'm having a sort of a kink revival this summer. So I'm like, put this podcast out. Like, I'm so excited. This is exactly the podcast I need in my life this summer. And yeah, I'm excited about it. So I'm declaring that well, kink is trending this summer, which whatever, kink could be trending, but I'm just saying it's so. It's so. And yeah, I love that. I felt like leather dykes were coming for me this summer. I kept being like, oh, this is the summer of leather dykes for me.
Oh yeah.
Because and then yeah, I've just sort of been exploring and opening up to another layer of relationship with kink. I think I've had, different relationships with it in the past, but really kind of like stepping into um a sort of revival with it. And I heard you say, this is kind of a relatively new journey for you as well. Would you say a few words about like, yeah, just like what has inspired you to go on this journey with kink? Like what was like the catalyst moment for you?
Sure, I'm happy to share that. So um I was living alone in San Francisco and didn't have much community there, but I was living right in the Mission, and like every Friday and Saturday, they would close the street a block over so people could walk around and like, you know, hang out on the street, ride bikes, and so on and so forth. And I went out one Friday evening to get ice cream, and I saw this person pushing their cat in a stroller, and I was like, I've got to talk to this person. I haven't talked to anyone other than my colleagues on Zoom, in weeks. And so I talked to them and we became friends. And they randomly invited me to this, like, what I call a sex camp up in Mendocino County. Invited me to come along with they were going to go with their partner, and I essentially was going to go pretty much alone because I knew that they would be doing their thing. And but I was like, I had $600 in my bank account, and for some reason, and like I was this weird psychic kid, so I've always been, encouraged, whether internally or externally, to follow my intuition. And so I spent 500 of that, made a few payment arrangements, and I spent 500 on my ticket. And I show up there and I'm just like, okay, like I have never been to a play party. I've never seen people walking around naked. I've never seen people in, chains and leather and being spanked and being put in these like interesting contraptions. But so it was all new to me, and I was just like wandering by myself. And then I met my current partner, and he has a long career in like doing media for sex and sex adjacent industries. And so he was kind of like into the kinky play scene. And I have just like since then, like that was the catalyst. And since then, I've been able to really explore the power I feel in being submissive, in contrast to every other area of my life where I'm the boss. So I'm really having a lot of fun playing with like power dynamics and seeing how that affects the way I respect myself and respect others.
Mm. Well, you say I've this is the second time in this conversation I feel like I've heard you connect the word respect to kink. And would you say more about that? I feel like
Yeah.
yeah, that just it feels interesting and exciting to me.
Yeah, like one of the reasons why I think tarot is a really great um topic to like for me to blend with the topic of kink is that tarot, like kink, is highly relational. It's not just about us and about what we want and our pleasure, but like how those things, which are very important, play into the ways that we sort of like entwine ourselves with the worlds we're in and the people in them. Like um I think, we are at once both the hinge and its attachments. And nothing in tarot the expansiveness of tarot reminds us that nothing we do is absolutely contained within ourselves, because we're influenced by infinite connections, including the ones beyond our perception. And so, because we are influenced by and have influence over this sort of interconnectedness of all things, we are, I think, we're responsible of trying our best to make that influence on others and the world around us, and to ourselves, positive and respectful. And kink, I think, you know, an adjective that a popular adjective that comes aware around with kink is rack, which is risk aware consensual kink. And I think in both the risk aware and the consensual aspects of it, respect is at the heart of those things, right? Because you're respecting your safety, you're respecting another person's safety. You have to have this dialogue. You have to like name what is okay and what's not. You have to stand up for yourself, but you also have to listen to other people's boundaries and not just be like, well, this is how people do sex. This is how I've seen it on TV, and this is what I'm going to do. It's like, no, like there's a lot of communication involved in kink, and for it to be successful and safe, it has to respect, everyone's needs who are within a particular scene, needs and boundaries.
Yeah, definitely so much more communication and like you're saying, a sort of like erasing of a normalcy or something, right? Like it's like, okay, we're gonna erase the idea that there's a normal way to have sex or there's a normal way to have a sexual encounter. And then we're gonna say, like, well, if I was gonna have this encounter with you, that's like either just kink or a sexual and kinky encounter, what would I want it to be like? And then the other person's gonna say, like, okay, this is what works about that or doesn't for me. And like, this is what I would want it to be like. And we're just going to say, like, we're going to build our experience from the middle of that place, like kind of
Yeah.
wiping out anything else that pre-exists. Wait, what's our pride sign? It says, subvert the vanilla paradigm.
Subvert the vanilla paradigm. And like there's nothing wrong about being like sexually vanilla, but like vanilla as in the people who like state these rules about how we should be and
Yeah,
such.
like the state, the man, the state says
Yeah,
vanilla, yes.
state is very vanilla. Yeah, and you know what? And like speaking of like these like external powers and the state, I think kink aligns with my identity and devotion to liberation work, because like it is about subverting those dominating narratives about how we should be and what we should like, and part of that we is how we approach and participate in relationships of all kinds. And so I think by lots, yes, I love what KT just said. I think
Hmm.
like this kink sphere has made me a much better communicator. It's made me more um like you know I I don't think I'm the only one who has ever been like sort of like taken aback or like sort of felt a way about a new boundary that other people have set. But like now I'm like, okay, that's a boundary. It's easier for me to respect um people's not just like obviously bodily autonomy, but like with ideology like that, like just like respecting people for who they are and their boundaries, and taking the invitation if they want to be pushed in a certain way, to go with it, but also be in communication, have a safe word, be clear about expectations, and not just your needs, but the kinds of needs that you can fulfill. And I think that directly correlates to how we communicate to our, coworkers or friends, like, this is what I have the capacity to do. This is what I want. This is what I can provide. This is what I can't provide. And this is how to interact with me.
There's a couple of questions here, or just comments I want to bring them about. Kate CA also, sidebar, will you let us know if you feel comfortable sharing a little bit more about your thought that you offered here that says kink BDSM feels very abolitionist to me? I would love to hear your, like, what's sparking for you, particularly in this moment, if you want to share it. And if not, just say, here we are, we're having a negotiation. Just say in the chat, I don't want to. And I'll say, I am graciously accepting your boundary. Tamil says, Will, can you talk about your autism and your kink experience on the podcast? Question.
100%. Absolutely. It's actually, so this first episode is going to be more about like an intro of like why I am blending kink and tarot, and like further episodes will start with the Fool and go through all 72 cards.
Wow.
I'm so bad at thinking about how many, like, I've done this for so long. I'm like 72, 78, 78, right? I don't know.
I don't know. One of those numbers sounds really right to me, but which one?
Yeah, like some decks have 80, some decks have like whatever. Like, yeah, all of them. Yeah, like we'll go through all, yes, we'll go through all of the cards that are typically in a standard tarot deck. And with each card, we'll talk about like an interesting kink, like something something a lot of us, uh, just like sex, no deck is the same. Yes, Kimmy. So we'll learn about an interesting kink, and we'll also delve into topics around just kink and play and autonomy, just in general, as it relates to sort of sex positivity. And the second episode, we'll start out with the Fool, and I will delve into particularly my autism as an example, and some of the common issues with this. When you hear about kink, you'll often you might often hear about like nothing goes on without an enthusiastic yes. And so I'll be talking about what that enthusiasm looks like for someone who is can look like for someone who is neurodiverse, and the issues and limitations with having that as like a blanket requirement for all kinds of people and relationships. So second episode, we will delve into my autism, but I suspect that that will be a running theme just because like this podcast is also about my life experience, and so I can't separate that part of who I am, because it's not just a part of who I am, it's a part of me that I'm very proud of and empowered by. And so that'll definitely it'll be a neurospicy podcast for sure.
I have, I am the ADHD. I have the ADHD, whatever you want to call it. And I have really only been, and anyway, that's a 30-year-old diagnosis for me. But I just, have done my own stuff. I haven't really been thinking about it, every day for 30 years. But just this year, like since January or February, I've been grappling with the hyperactivity part. It's not something I ever identified with. Like I was like, yes, I have, these focus issues. I call it like attention, what's it called? Surplus disorder, because I'm like, actually, like, I wish I had an attention deficit sometimes. I'm actually paying attention and tracking 5,000 things. It's very stressful sometimes. But it always feels about like focus and ways of working and distractibility and all these more like mental things that have to do with attention. And then, but I don't know. I only really thought about the hyperactivity side of it with like, which maybe this is part of the thing I think across the neurodiverged spectrum, like a lot more boys get diagnosed with things, because I think about like, oh, what's a hyper? I think about like a kid who's a boy. That's what I think about when I think
Ah.
hyper. And but I went to this chanting retreat. It's the second year in a row I've been to it. And it's a really beautiful, mystical Jewish chanting retreat, erotic chanting retreat. Loved it. Very intrigued by the topic. Really kept my focus mentally. But I was like, oh, we have to sit in a chair in a circle for how long? I was like, I can't do that. I have to sit on the floor, and even that, I'm gonna have to get up. I'm gonna have to stretch in the corner. Like, I cannot. And I was like, whoa, I'm hyperactive. Like, I'm hyperactive. Like, I'm hyper productive. I do a lot of stuff. I don't know. Anyway, but I've been really, since having that revelation, I've been tying a lot. Like, I'm like, oh, where does this hyperactivity show up? And then having really seeing where it lives in like my dating life, my attachment style, my relationship to sex, like all of these things. So I'm really excited to hear your journey about like these things that I think a lot of us are, I don't know, just living more into the dimension of, right? Like understanding our brains and how does our brain play into sort of our spiritual journey.
Right, absolutely. And one thing I did also want to know about the podcast is that it's for all genders and orientations. It isn't necessarily only about people who are in like poly groups or in relationships with another person or even having sex with just another person. There's also, I think there's a lot unspoken about our sexual relationships with ourselves. And so this is not going to be it's a podcast I think can be interesting for anyone interested in kink and tarot. And I just invite folks to just take what you like and leave the rest.
We're all definitely going to listen to it.
Okay, y'all better.
Don't worry about that. We're all definitely listening. Um, when do you have a date that you're dropping your first episode?
I think I'm gonna drop it on Monday. Um,
We're ready.
okay, I've said it. I've been deciding Monday or Tuesday, and now that I've said it, I've committed to it. So I will announce it on Monday, probably through my Instagram, and then next newsletter I'll include it. But I don't like clogging up people's email inboxes. So you can follow me on Instagram and I will announce once it's up. Currently, it's going to be up on Monday.
Fabulous. And we'll definitely send an email follow up to this with like all your links and everything. So it'll be super easy to find. It'll be super easy to get your book.
Yay.
I know that we're all like so excited. We all want to be on your mailing list and all those things. Because it's really I don't even I'm not sure what's the word I want to use. I guess I just want to say like thank you for being a deep thinker, and for like wanting to share your thinking with us, um, with the collective to like help us all navigate on these paths that we're on. I really I really appreciate your thinking and the way that you take the time to share it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that because I think that like one of the things I need to work very heavily on or more heavily on is overthinking. But thinking a lot about something isn't inherently bad. It's just how you do it, and how it affects your life and such. And so I really appreciate you naming that, like, I do practice deep thinking, and that is something to claim for myself. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Overthinkers unite. Or like just big thinkers, like
Big
big
thinkers.
thinkers.
Love it.
I think, to me the question of like, if something's a good or bad, I'm just like, is it causing distress, right? Like, does it cause you distress? Does it cause someone else distress? If it doesn't, then it just is what it is, right? So you can
Right.
do something as much as you want.
Right.
It's your brain and it's your business. It's just like, when we cause ourselves distress, or like if our thinking levels causing distress, and I don't know.
I agree.
Yeah. So think about it as much as you want. I really am enjoying your thinking.
Thank you.
One, okay, next path question is, this is the slumber party for a sexy self-care summer. And this is the second summer in a row that I've done this series, Sexy Self-Care Summer. I initiated it last year. The sort of creative, the catalyst for it, or is just people, I've been money witching, this is my 10th year being money witch, having the money witch business. And what I definitely know is people hate to work on money in the summer. Or just like that's the general, like there's like less engagement, and like no one wants to come to a workshop, and like people drop out of my membership, but everyone's just like, oh no, unless you're a small business person who like has to be doing it actively all the time, and you're just like, this is what we're doing because that's what we're doing. But people just don't want to deal with it. But I was like, I want people to get out of these cycles of like, we just stop paying attention to something and then we cycle back to it and we're like, I'm paying attention to this again. And not in like definitely seasonality cycles, yes, but kind of like totally dropping. Like, I'm like, you can't totally drop your like financial self-care for 3 months. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's, and then be like, oh shit, now it's an emergency because I didn't touch this for 3 months. So I was like, okay, let me meet the people where they are in the summer. And it's also fun for me because it's like allows me to just talk about other things that I'm interested in besides just money all the time, So, but this summer, coming to it for a second time, in the midst of so much revolution work, in the midst of like live stream genocide, it was like really, I was like, okay, what is this, right? Like, what is this now this year? What does it mean to be like sexy self-care summer and not just be like, not engage it in a superficial way, or not engage it in a way that's about like escapism or just like bypassing what people are experiencing. And yeah, so I've just been thinking about all these words so much more, like sexy, what does it mean? Like self-care, what does it mean? Like, what do I mean? What am I saying to people? And I think I was like, okay, sexy is like, when I say sexy, I mean like embodying like the creative life force that is available in the erotic, just like being alive,
Yes.
right? Like being really alive, because regardless of how you feel about it, for any number of reasons, like you are alive today. Do you know what like, that's what's happening. You are alive. Other people are not. You will make it to the end of the day. Other people will not. That is what is happening to you today. I wish upon you that that's what's happening. But, we have to continue to be alive. Like we have to live into our lives and this creative potentiality and just our aliveness. And then it's like, okay, self-care. It's like, and then because you're tasked with this incredible, I'm not even going to assign it a value. I'm just going to say this incredible experience, right? Like I want to say like this incredible blessing, but just this incredible experience of living in body form, incarnated in meat. I was saying that word is like in meat Asian. But then we have to take care of ourselves, like that's the other side of it, right? We have to take care of ourselves. We cannot not take care of ourselves. We cannot not embody being alive, and we cannot therefore not take care of ourselves. Like, these things are not options. They're so essential, and therefore they are essential. That's what being human is. And like, anything that is human is revolutionary. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because it's really
Absolutely.
like, what is liberation, but like being more human, like being more connected with our humanity. And so anyway, in my head, in my room, I'm like, sexy self-care is like so liberatory. But I don't know if I've really been talking about it out in the world. But I'm excited to kind of ask you, like, what like, what is your relationship like with self-care in this moment? Like, what are you loving to do? How do you love taking care of yourself? How do you take care of your own creative potential, your own embodied form?
Yeah. So for a very long time, I resented the fact that I was embodied. Like, to have a body is to inhabit a physical form that can only be in one place at one time. And I would feel really, I don't know, like existentially upset that like this body is limiting me from being having the experience on earth that I want to have. And I felt like that for a very long time. And eventually I was just like, you got a body. So what are we gonna do with it? And so since then, and kind of in conjunction with my kind of tempering of fire and water energy, and coming back down to earth, is going back into like, how are simple ways that I can be with my body. And for me, um, one big thing that's been helpful is breath work. I highly recommend Shauna Bryant if any of you are familiar with her. Um, their work is amazing. And I had an experience where they came to LA, taught a class, and I had never done group breath work before. And, I went through it. And by the time I was done, I was like, crying so hard, and I was like, I did not know that this could come out of my body as a result of intentionally moving my breath. And so I've been incorporating that into my everyday. I think the biggest, like, sometimes people are like, what is the spell you do most often? And I'm like, I drink a lot of water. Like, that makes me feel sexy, that makes me feel in my body, that makes me feel alive, that makes me feel present. Sometimes I like to, like, I'm always carrying a water bottle around with me, and sometimes at the beginning of the day, like, I'll have an intention and I'll write it on a post-it, stick it on my water bottle, just some scotch tape, and think every time I take a sip of water, I'm going to, look at this intention, whether I say it aloud or not. Like, I'm going to look at it because I believe, like, even on a subconscious level, that like this message is transmitting to me somehow. And that's a spell. Like, drinking water is a spell. Looking at clouds is a spell. Like, being in our bodies and feeling in our bodies um, is a spell, because when we are inhabiting our bodies, I think we can feel a greater sense of autonomy and ownership over ourselves, which I think is critical in a world that is telling you that everything you need is external, critical in a world where there are so many forces trying to not just influence how we treat our bodies, but in many ways controlling have how we can treat our bodies. And so, like, being in your body and feeling like having even just like, you know, of sometimes s- like, I love a good, like, big long daily routine, like personal practice, but sometimes I'm like, I can devote 3 minutes to this breath work. I'm not getting out of bed. I'm just going to sit here, and I'm just gonna like do it. And when I'm done, I'm done, and not give myself shit for like that feels very self-care for me to know that my personal practice doesn't have to be limited to a place or a certain time of day or a certain duration. I think flexibility is a spell as well. And so in practicing embodiment and flexibility, that is how I'm taking better care of myself this summer. And it feels sexy.
Yeah. I love that. And I love the way that it's like undoing perfectionism, or like working with the idea of perfectionism and self-care, which is also like working, racial healing and self-care, which is also working just like with that binary, like releasing that binary thinking of just like, I have to do, I have to sit down and meditate like on a cushion for 15 minutes or, whatever, or else I'm like just not gonna. And then it's like every day we're like, oh shit, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I didn't do that. And then it's like, you didn't do any, you got nothing for yourself. You know what I mean? Like you got no meditation for yourself because you were
Right?
like, it has to look this way. Um, so yeah, like I also think it's very like accessible, to just be like, okay, how do we set up accessibility for ourselves? How do we make accessibility in our spirituality for ourselves? Because it's not gonna be possible every day to, whatever it is, right? Like,
Right, right. Like
the
if your
morning.
spiritual practice is something, sorry, I just feel called to say like, and I don't mean to interrupt, but like one a realization that I keep running into when I fall in. So I shared that like Sun, Leo, Scorpio moon, rising Taurus, all fixed signs. So
Mhm.
something I'm working with is flexibility. And when I feel myself becoming rigid about my personal practice, I end up beating myself up for it. And I'm like, why would I have a spiritual practice that makes me feel guilty, unproductive, or not good enough? Like, what is the purpose of this practice? And if it becomes something that I feel like is an assignment or I'm checking off boxes, like that does not feel spiritual or sexy or in the vein of self-care to me. And I just I felt that like ting in my body when you were just sharing that, because the best we can do is the best we can do, and accepting that is, I think, self-care.
KT invoked someone who I also very much like their thinking, JT Perry, and the quote is making the magic easeful, which is
Mhm.
really good. I think about it a lot because I think about like morning routines and these, and I'm just like between um, like I have a 14-year-old son, I have a dog, and I have ADHD. And I was like, between those three things, like me in the morning is like it's a complicated journey. And I'm not like getting up and writing in my journal for 5 minutes. I'm a single mom. Like it's just like it's not happening, right? So but yeah, it's just like, well, what can, so, but I'm like, I can get up and drink a glass of water, or I can get up and, find all my potions on my dresser and like take 3 of them before I'm like walking out the door to take the dog out, or, like just these little micro moments. And I feel, to me, that is what witchcraft has always been. Like it's
Right.
just like, how do you just, and then we're back to the relational, right? Like how do you just have a relationship with this like larger dimension, these like multidimensionalities, in a way that's very just part of your life, like fluid, natural. We're cooking, there's magic, we're walking by the dresser and seeing our intention, or looking at our, potion and taking a little bit, that's magic. We're in the shower, we're like clearing our mind, we're, letting things go, like that's magic. So yeah, it it's more human, right? And like we said, anything that's more human is more liberatory. So
Right.
um I think it's really beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, most of our magic happens beyond the altar. So I'm really digging all the things you're sharing about just like everyday magic because like sometimes sometimes you can't even you don't have it in you to have a regular scripted practice. Like maybe sometimes it's just like, how do I make what I already have to do more magical? And sometimes for me, that's been like using my favorite pen or highlighter for this thing I already have to do. Like that's magical to me. And that, makes my life a little bit more feel more intentional. So it's not all about just like you, like you just illustrated, like it's not all about these, like, I don't know, like, I don't know, like, sort of like popular depictions of like what witchcraft is or what spiritual work is and like daily practice. And I'm just like, how do you make your everyday life more magical? Like that's more sustainable than having a 15 item checklist that you do every day because you think it makes you spiritually better. But you're just checking off boxes.
Yeah, and that's that level of pulling like more self-care and more magic into our day-to-day lives, right? Just by like letting it be easeful, letting it like get in where it fits in your little like crevices of time and your space and just like really um getting out of these binary relationships, with spirituality, with self-care. So yeah, definitely loving that. I wanted to know if I could ask you quick questions. Like it's a little like lightning round. So when I was promoting for this, although I wish I had, whatever. Anyway, coulda, shoulda, woulda. I made him reels yesterday, which I could have made 2 weeks ago, but God didn't tell me to make it till yesterday. So, um, I, I was like, I'm going to make this kink and tarot reels, to promote this event. And, I think you saw it. So,
Yeah.
um, but I was like, "Okay, let me walk around my house and be like, what do I even have that represents kink?" And then, like, let me sort it into little piles to try to be like, "What kinks do these represent?" And, like, I was just, like, trying to figure it out, and then I was like, "What card goes with what?" And I tried to call a lifeline. I texted, like, 7 people in my phone, one of whom just showed up. Oh, and then disappeared again, my friend Yaya, but I was like, I feel very abundant that I have 7 people in my phone that I could send a text to and be like, "Can I pick your brain for 5 minutes about kink and tarot?" Even though none of them were available, it still felt abundant. Hi. Um, but anyway, so I was like, I'm just gonna let myself channel this. Like, I'm just gonna take 3 minutes and flip through the deck and just be like, what do I think about this? So they were very quick connections, between like a kink and a card. I did it was not a deep thinking exercise. This was an opposite of deep thinking exercise. But I wanted to run them by you. There was 5 correlations, and I want to run them by you and see what you think or if you have any thoughts on the connections.
Cool.
Okay, so the first one, we're gonna go with the moon because we have our full moon tonight. The first one was like baby girl kink and the moon. This was my correlation. And I think I wrote like intuitive, receptive. I also feel like there's something about the moon card and kind of like age play that is about sort of like traveling in time for healing purposes. That felt really juicy to me. And I forgot what else I wrote. But what do you think about that pairing?
I love that. I don't necessarily like age play isn't one of my kinks. I'm open to it one day, but it's interesting because like I'm really leaning into this year, which is my moon year, and this is the year that I realized that like my my like submissive archetype is the baby girl archetype. Like I like to please, I like to be babied and taken care of. and like, good girl is a really nice thing to hear. And like,
Girl is a great thing to hear. Everyone
right,
gets a little good girl. Good girl. Good girl, everybody. Good girl.
I love it.
Boy,
And
I realized recently I have a harder time saying good boy. I'm really trying to restory that for myself, but I was like, I'm living in like a good girl paradigm, and someone was like, it's like you're living in the Barbie movie. You can only say good girl.
yeah. So yeah, just digging deep into myself and knowing myself in my moon year, and then realizing that like I just want to I'm baby and I want to be baby. Like that's a deep inner need that I have wanted for a long time. And so connecting those two just feels really resonant with me right now.
Awesome. Check. Okay. Second one was I was calling it domestic. I didn't even know what to call it, honestly, because I have an aversion to mommy play, which is like what I think someone else would have called it. But it was like a wooden hairbrush, a wooden spoon, and 2 wooden clothespins. Um, and then I said, this is Queen of Pentacles. And I very much like work with Queen of Pentacles in my work. I feel very Queen of Pentacles embodied more than Empress energy. I'm like, and I'm like, Queen of Pentacles is like, just fucking do it right. Like, what the fuck? Or I'm gonna hit you with a spoon, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, that was that was where I was going with this. What do we think of this connection?
I really love that. Um that makes so much sense to me. And also just like the Queen of Pentacles is like they can be a total kitchen witch. And so I'm like, yeah, I can totally see like less so like yes, they can be like the domestic sub, but I'm like kind of jazzed about this idea of like this like dominating kitchen witch and like
Pentacles is a dom. Queen of Pentacles
yeah,
is not a sub. Let me just lay
yeah,
that out for everyone right now. I think.
yeah,
I mean, she can do whatever she wants, in the midnight hours, but we all have to flip it around sometimes. But
for sure. Yeah, I totally get the kitchen implements and
yeah, the hairbrush.
impact play.
Honestly, hairbrush, I really like wood. I realize like for impact play, I like wood. It feels very warm to me. It feels like this kind of like warm impact energy. It's also like in the eco-sexual realm a little, which I love to dabble in that realm. And I have to say, as a mother of a child who has not hit her child, but when I've never felt the urge to hit my child so strongly as when I'm holding a hairbrush. There's something about a hairbrush, man. It's just like that. It really, I'm like, I'll hit him on like the leg, like, cause he gets mad that I'm brushing his hair, and then I like hit him on the leg, like, stop, sit still, but I'm like, there's just something about that wooden hairbrush. Love it. I don't know what it is.
I feel like I kind of get it.
Yeah, something about a hairbrush really makes you want to smack somebody. I don't know what it is. But anyway, it's the Queen of Pentacles energy. Okay, number 3 was we can jump right to the Empress. It was the Empress and I just wrote toys. It's like a dildo and my Hitachi vibrator together on the picture. But and in the caption I was just like, I just feel like toys is like there just can be as much of it as you want, like every hole, sure, and um a friend of mine recently who's pretty straight, but we were talking and I talked to her. I'm fucking some straight guys off Tinder right now. So but I was discussing this with her and I was saying that the thing that always feels so shocking to me as someone who's had mostly queer sex is often like when you have sex with the cis straight men, especially the ones that I'm choosing, off Tinder, it's like, oh, we're only ever gonna have sex with this dick, like just this dick forever, like only this dick. Like I don't know. There's something that feels like, okay, like I can't just be like, today I want another inch, let's go to the store. Like, okay, that's fine. And she was like, I never realized how accessible queer sex was. So I was like, yeah, but there's something really about toys to me that feels like that ultimate abundance. Like you can have anything you want, anywhere you want, all at one time, whatever shape you want, however you want to do it. Like I really like loved that connection with the Empress. So what do you think about that one?
I love it too. I fantasize. So I am less so into like, I feel like now I'm becoming a lot more open to toys, and it's not like I've been averse to them, it's just, like, a a domain that hasn't really crossed my mind a lot until now, and, like, now, I'm, like, getting into, like, violet wand electrostimulation action and, like, sort of those sort of things, and, but I've always wanted, like, kind of a display of just artful dildos, because, like, so many of them are, like, so interesting and so beautiful. Like, in my newsletter, like, for a very long time in all of its iterations, there's always a dildo of the month, and I just think that there's something so abundant about the thought of just being like, look at all of these different ways to pleasure oneself or somebody else. Like, there are so many different ways to give and receive pleasure, and that totally feels so empressy to me.
Awesome. Okay, let's see where we've got two more. Okay. I did rope bondage, which is something that I'm not experienced with at all, but I did rope bondage and the death card. Um what do you
Mm.
think about that? I don't know if you have rope experience.
Um, I have minimal experience. I mean, like, I've been tied up and such, but, like, this feels so, like, the devil and the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, you'll see that, like, the chains around their necks are loose enough for them to, like, take off, and so with rope play and the devil, I like there's this perception of bondage that can feel very real. But in the back of your mind, you can always say you take off that chain by saying the safe word, and like you're free to go. But like there's something very sexy about the illusion of, to me at least, about the illusion of losing control and just being, I don't know, I like to be objectified. And so that's exciting to me, and I totally connect that with the devil.
Um what was what the last one I did was oh, the Hierophant and leather.
Mm. Leather, authority. Hierophant, authority. I get it.
It was also like this idea of like teaching through love, like it was like consistency, surrender, love, I think were like words that I put on there. Like protocol also was another
Mhm.
one. I feel like this idea of kind of like doing things in an order, like things go away and you do them that way, and there's something that maybe you don't even know you're going to get out of that, but you just sort of like surrender into the experience of doing it, and then let the information, like let the teaching kind of like, or the education sort of sink in, and be received on a spiritual level.
Oh, that really resonates. I love that. These connections are so good.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm so glad that my lack of deep thinking made good connections. It's a TikTok video or an Instagram reel, and we'll also link it in the email. Somebody was inquiring where to see. Um, we will try to send out everything that we talked about, all the links to everything that we talked about. Thank you. Thanks, Megan. Um, I want to say thank you so much for your time, for hanging out tonight, Maria. I really appreciated it. This has been really fun, really enlightening, really like activating. I am still I know it's Cancer season in the tropical astrology world, but in the Hebrew calendar we still get like 2 more weeks of Gemini, and I'm really riding this like Gemini cross-pollination energy. So I just am going to keep going with it, where I'm like, yeah, I feel like this was a great kind of like Gemini conversation. It's introducing some Cancer season topics. We're also excited for your podcast to unfold next week. We're all gonna listen. um just all of us, I know, are like in deep appreciation of your teaching, your sharing tonight in a way that allows us to see ourselves and like deepen our relationship with ourselves, deepen our relationship with the collective. And yeah, thank you for everything that you do and for blessing us with your presence tonight.
Thank you for having me. This was a really great experience. And like I said, I feel psychic energy in the body, and I have had a really great feeling this whole time with all of you, whether you're on camera or not. The energy here has just been really refreshing and potent to me. So I'm so thankful for each one of you, your presence here, and for those who are catching this asynchronously, and mostly or not mostly, because that sounds so hierarchical, but like Jesse Susanna, the Money Witch, the HBIC, I adore you. I'm so glad we've made this connection. Thank you for this space, and this was a lovely conversation, and I'm so grateful to be in community with you. And I know we'll connect, if not before then, at the Witches Confluence later this year.
Yeah, that's for anyone who's in the Bay or Bay accessible. That's November 2nd. In San Francisco, it's going to be in person this year. Huge witch marketplace and workshops and healing activations, and yeah, just going to be really great. And I'm loving all that. I'm going to leave the video on just for a sec because a lot of people are pouring out appreciations for you in the chat, and I know everybody like really has been so appreciative of you being here. And
Oh, my heart is so big right now. Oh, thank you, everyone. I'm sending deep bows of gratitude to each of you.
beautiful. Oh, Megan, there's a free event in SF tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a little wellness event. I don't really know much about it except for that it's free and I'll be massaging. So if you want to come and get a free massage from 12 to 4 at this massage or yoga studio. Here, I copied and pasted.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, ma'am. Wonderful. And I'm gonna be also tomorrow. Tomorrow there's a summer solstice, which is Confluence event. It's like a fundraiser for the scholarship tickets for Witches Confluence, which sidebar, if you need a scholarship ticket for Witches Confluence, they will be available in part because of this fundraiser. But I'm an event, and there's a ritual. The marketplace is free, and the ritual is pay for the fundraiser. But I think this cross-pollination energy is so good. I think being in community is so good. No, ma'am. And I think no manners at all, not a single bit of manners, that Chihuahua. But just like being in magical community right now is so healing, like it's just like just connecting with people and being like, yeah, people, like just people that are love energy, let it flow between people. So anyway, find a way to connect with folks. Thank you for being here and connecting with us tonight, everybody. Thank you for honoring your own need for connection by being here. And may there be like many more magical connections this weekend. I feel like this is a really big like magical connection weekend. I really feel that.
I agree. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Happy solstice, happy pride. Yes.